At the crossroads of justice and technology lie decisions that shape entire lives. Algorithms that carry the weight of historical bias, the echo of unresolved inequalities, and the power to perpetuate injustice under the guise of objectivity. For Maya Johnson, a 34-year-old public defender in Chicago, Illinois, that power took the form of an AI software named Janus, a system that appeared impartial but hid within its code the same biases she fought against every single day. The story begins with numbers, cold numbers calculated with mathematical precision, numbers that determined fates on courtroom screens in Cook County. A quick cut to Maya's face shows her sharp eyes scanning those same numbers, her expression revealing a growing suspicion that none of her colleagues seemed to share. Her grandmother used to say that justice wasn't blind, just selective about who it chose to see. That lesson, learned during the civil rights struggle, now echoed in modernized courtrooms where judges increasingly relied on algorithms to decide who deserved mercy and who deserved punishment. In the hands of the system, Janus wasn't just software, it was an invisible judge, a faceless jury, the new arbiter of who could rebuild their life and who would be condemned to repeat the cycle of incarceration. The stage where Maya practiced her vocation was a world of contrasts. The Cook County Criminal Court, a towering structure of stone and marble in downtown Chicago, was a temple of justice that often denied that very ideal to its most vulnerable visitors. Its halls were austere, lined with dark wood and American flags, a stark contrast to the diverse and complex human realities that passed through its doors each day. In this world of black robes and gavels, among prosecutors chasing quick convictions and overworked judges desperate for efficiency, no one questioned whether this new AI system carried the echo of decades of disproportionate policing in Black and Latino neighborhoods. No one saw that Janus was just a modern tool for the same old system, a system Maya was determined to break. She watched, a mix of outrage and resolve in her eyes, as judges reviewed Janus's recidivism risk scores before issuing sentences. One middle-aged white judge looked at the computer screen and remarked that a 19-year-old black defendant, accused of a nonviolent offense, had a worryingly high risk score and suggested the maximum sentence instead of the minimum. Maya's stomach dropped. She gripped the folder in her hands, a folder that contained the young man's spotless record prior to this single mistake. In the cramped, underfunded office of the public defenders, Maya moved with precision, like a soldier in battle. She combed through sentencing patterns, compiling data with care. Her eyes briefly closed when she recognized a familiar trend, one that echoed the stories her grandmother once told, how the system always found new ways to oppress. Marcus, the investigator and her closest ally, approached with a weary smile. "My mom always said numbers don't lie, but the people who interpret them do." Maya chuckled softly. "My grandma said something similar. Behind every statistic, there's a human story." When Marcus asked what story these sentencing patterns told, she didn't have time to answer. The imposing presence of Judge William Harrington, the court's most vocal supporter of Janus, filled the room. At 58, Harrington was tall, impeccably dressed in his black robe. His polished smile never reached his eyes. He boomed to the room. "Janus has just been praised by the Department of Justice as a model of judicial efficiency." He congratulated the court, and himself, for elevating the legal process into something he called truly objective and free from human bias. Polite, restrained applause followed. Maya and Marcus exchanged a knowing glance. Harrington approached Maya, glancing at the case she was reviewing. In a condescending tone, he advised her not to get too emotionally attached to individual cases, because the system clearly was working for the greater good. It delivers consistent, predictable results that help keep the streets safe, he declared. Maya, swallowing her frustration, instinctively touched the justice scale pin on her lapel. She countered, "Consistency means nothing if it consistently harms the same communities." Harrington cut her off. "Sentimentality doesn't solve crime. Objective data does, and objectivity means trusting the algorithm. Less time wasted on human deliberation, more efficiency, less recidivism." He walked away, leaving Maya frozen, her face calm, but her eyes storming. Marcus leaned in, muttering, "One day Harrington's precious AI is going to choke on its own bias." Maya nearly smiled, but her thoughts were far from the office. They were with the justice being stolen from her clients. That night, in her small, orderly apartment, Maya removed her blazer like shedding armor. Books on civil rights and Black literature lined the shelves, contrasting the coldness of the courtroom. She opened her laptop and resumed her personal investigation, data analysis she'd been building for weeks. Near her desk, she kept a framed newspaper clipping. "First class of Black law students graduates." Her grandmother was in the photo, her face lit with purpose and pride. Maya whispered to herself, "What would Grandma say if she knew justice was being handed down by a machine no one fully understands?" A memory flooded back. She was 10, sitting at her grandmother's feet, bathed in warm golden light. Dorothy Johnson, one of the first Black women to practice law in Chicago, shared stories of her battles in court. "Justice, sweetheart, isn't something you find. It's something you build, every day with every fight you choose. They'll change the rules, change the words, even change the tools, but don't forget to look behind the curtain." Little Maya nodded solemnly, soaking in every word. Dorothy's proud smile lit the room. She held her granddaughter's hands and said, "One day it'll be your turn, and you'll have to be even smarter, even stronger, because oppression evolves too." Back in the present, Maya found an old photograph of her grandmother in court, decades earlier, defending a young Black man in a system that rarely offered justice to people who looked like him. On the back, a handwritten note read, "True justice means seeing the humanity in every person." Maya touched the photo, and a decision crystallized in her heart. Though risky, she doubled down on her data gathering, her fingers flying over the keyboard as disturbing patterns emerged. Across town, a man named Dr. Eric Chen was about to become Maya's most unexpected ally. Chen, 42, had helped build Yanis, but had left the company under mysterious circumstances. Maya tracked him down to a noisy cafe, private enough for a conversation. Chen seemed nervous, checking the door often. When Maya showed him her findings, he didn't look surprised, only resigned. He explained that Yanis had been trained on decades of sentencing data soaked in bias from over-policing Black and Latino communities. He had warned the company, suggesting corrections to offset the bias, but they cared more about predictive accuracy and efficiency than actual fairness. When he pushed harder, they shut him out. Maya asked if he'd testify or share internal documentation. Chen hesitated. He'd signed airtight NDAs, but something about Maya's conviction moved him. He said he'd think about it and contact her soon. Meanwhile, Maya began her subtle resistance. In every case, she questioned the risk score methods, requested raw data, and highlighted inconsistencies in outcomes. She wasn't ready to attack Giannis head-on, not yet, but she was planting seeds of doubt. Judge Harrington quickly noticed. After one tense hearing, he summoned Maya to his chambers. With the door closed, the charm dropped. "You're treading on dangerous ground. Giannis was state-approved, validated by experts, and cut our workload by 30%. If you care about your clients, work within the system. Don't fight the tool that helps us all." Maya held her ground. "I have an ethical duty to challenge anything that seems to harm my clients unfairly." Harrington's eyes narrowed. He issued a thinly veiled threat. "Troublemaking public defenders tend to get the worst cases and the least flexible judges." That night, Maya received an encrypted email from Chen. One file was attached, a confidential company document showing that Giannis assigned different weights to factors like neighborhood and family history, variables that acted as proxies for race and class, even though race wasn't explicitly listed. This was the missing piece. Giannis wasn't just reflecting social bias. It had been intentionally designed to encode systemic inequality under a mask of objectivity. Armed with this proof, Maya turned to Judge Leela Washington, a highly respected Black judge known for her integrity. After reviewing the evidence privately, Judge Washington agreed there was cause for concern. She authorized a special hearing to investigate the use of Giannis in sentencing. The news spread fast. Nexus Technologies, the company behind Giannis, sent lawyers to block the hearing. They claimed trade secrets and proprietary code could not be examined in public court. The legal fight was intense. Maya worked nights and weekends, building a coalition of support: AI ethicists, civil rights lawyers, and retired judges who were alarmed at the system's growing dependence on black box algorithms. The turning point came when Jamal Williams, a 22-year-old Black man with no prior record, was sentenced harshly based on a high-risk score. His only crime was growing up in a rough neighborhood and having a cousin with a criminal record. Both factors weighed heavily by Giannis. Jamal's case gained media attention. Reporters uncovered a pattern of racial disparities linked to Giannis across multiple cases. Public pressure mounted. Judge Washington ordered a full hearing on the system. On the day of the hearing, the courtroom was packed. Nexus's lawyers argued passionately that Giannis was just math, and that math couldn't be racist. They pointed to reduced workload and lower recidivism rates. Then it was Maya's turn. She didn't attack the tech itself, but the assumption that algorithms could be neutral. With calm, precise arguments, she showed how Giannis amplified existing social bias, creating a feedback loop that harmed the most vulnerable. And then, Dr. Chen walked into the courtroom. Despite legal threats from Nexus, he took the stand. With a steady voice, he confirmed it all. He had warned the company. He had flagged the racial proxy variables. They ignored him. His testimony stunned the courtroom. Judge Washington, after hearing all sides, made a historic ruling. Giannis was to be suspended immediately until a full audit by an independent panel of AI ethics and civil rights experts. For Maya, it was just the beginning. The Giannis fight had exposed a much larger issue: the silent spread of bias, misunderstood tech across the entire justice system. The most meaningful victories often spark change far beyond the immediate case. In the weeks following Judge Washington's ruling, courts in 3 other states announced audits of their own algorithmic risk assessment systems. Lawmakers began proposing bills that would require transparency and fairness reviews for any AI tool used in the criminal justice system. For Maya, the real work was just beginning. She founded the Algorithmic Justice Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to uncovering and challenging bias in automated decision-making within the legal system. Backed by a diverse coalition of attorneys, data scientists, and community activists, the initiative began offering training and resources to public defenders across the country. Dr. Chen became a key ally, helping translate complex technical concepts into language judges and lawyers could understand. Together, they created a set of fair AI guidelines that started gaining recognition in both legal and tech circles. Even Judge Harrington, once Maya's fiercest critic, underwent a quiet transformation. After reviewing dozens of past cases where Janice had recommended unjustly severe sentences, he approached Maya, humbler than ever before. He admitted he'd been seduced by the promise of efficiency and objectivity, without fully considering how those values could conflict with individual justice. At a national judges' conference, Harrington stunned the room by delivering a passionate speech about the dangers of outsourcing judgment to algorithms. He cited Maya's work as a reminder that technology should be a tool for justice, not a replacement for informed, compassionate human judgment. For Jamal Williams and dozens of others whose sentences were reviewed after Janice was suspended, the victory was life-changing. Now on probation instead of behind bars, Jamal began working with youth mentorship programs, determined to help others avoid the same obstacles he had faced. One quiet afternoon, Maya visited the cemetery where her grandmother was buried. She laid fresh flowers at the grave and shared the story of her fight, the victory, and the work that still remained. The wind rustled through the trees. Maya closed her eyes and whispered, "You were right, Grandma. They just changed the tools, but we've evolved too." In her office, Maya hung her grandmother's photo next to a new frame, a newspaper headline about the historic ruling by Judge Washington. 2 generations of Black women, separated by time, united by the same fight for justice, a fight that kept evolving, but whose heart remained unchanged. Algorithms, like laws, are not neutral. They carry the values, assumptions, and biases of those who create them and the data they're built on. True justice means questioning not just decisions, but the systems that produce them, especially when those systems hide behind the supposed objectivity of numbers. If this story moved you or sparked your curiosity about how technology is shaping our justice system, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that explore the deep intersections between tech, race, and justice in our society. Until the next video, remember, justice is not something we find in an algorithm. It's something we build together, every day, with every choice and every system we choose to question. The next week, Maya received an invitation to testify before Congress on the use of artificial intelligence in the U.S. criminal justice system. As she prepared her remarks, she thought about the simple question that had started everything. Why did her Black and Latino clients consistently receive higher risk scores? That single question had triggered a national re-examination of how technology was being used to decide the fate of human lives. The battle was far from over. New tools would emerge, each promising efficiency, fairness, objectivity. But now a precedent had been set, a model for challenging, for demanding transparency, and for insisting that justice and equity must always be at the core of every system, no matter how advanced.